And we are live with Krashy here, my man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, hanging out. Got a little bit cleaned up. I'm wearing a white shirt, which I never do. Well, what's like white and gray? But yep, just here to talk about Spellbreak, all the fun stuff. You know how we do it.
Absolutely, we do it always so well. Me and you, we always jive pretty well. I know we cast together on Element. I believe you're taking a break for a little bit, but you've probably seen this lovely face here on the Element casting desk. So it's always a great time to get here with a nice buddy for episode 3 of SpellCast. By the way, for those of you that don't know, SpellCast, it is a weekly podcast that I will have every single weekend. Now I will be out of town this in the coming weeks here in about 3 weeks for the Christmas holidays, but I will try and have something for y'all to digest there and premiere it on those weekends anyway. So if y'all stay tuned during those holidays, we'll have that coming out here. But that's enough talking about Spellcast. We got to talk about you, Krashy, my beautiful little guest. So I'd just like to get into those first notes that I sent you here. Who are you? What do you do? Why should we listen to you? And how long have you been playing Spellbreak, my friend?
Yeah, so who am I? My name is Joseph. I am very soon to be 28 years old. I live in
All
Houston,
right.
Texas, and yeah, I play video games. I've been playing games competitively since I was 13. I've been streaming probably since I was like 15 or 16, going to LAN events since I was 13. I started casting probably when I was like 16, 17. I've worked for organizations. I've been assigned professional player for organizations. I've been content creator on the marketing side, team management. I've done professional coaching. I mean, as far as gaming and like esports is related, I've done a little bit of everything except for being like in the industry specifically. Like I've never had some massive like career job or something, but I've done a little bit of everything. So yeah, I do a little bit of everything. And I've been playing Spellbreak. I originally got in, I want to say late 2018 in the alpha at some point, like pre-alpha at some point. And I played it a little bit, maybe a handful of the playtest times or something. And then same thing, like when the game moved over to Epic Games Launcher and was like under the Spellbreak name in beta at some point, I played it a little bit, and it was funny because every time I played it, I would tell myself like, "Wow, this game's pretty cool. I can't wait to see what it turns into." I didn't really want to stick with it. I was doing something else at the time. I had focus on something else, content wise or streaming wise,
Mm-hmm.
so I never stuck with it. I kind of regret that now. Like, I wish I would have taken the Marcus path where you kind of like jump in, you see it's cool, you're looking for something new, and then you stick with it. I
Yeah,
didn't do that, but
it's
officially,
definitely risky.
yeah, I mean a little bit for sure. Especially if you're doing other things, which at the time when I tried the game, I don't even know what I was doing. I really can't recall. It was probably something Fortnite related. Um, but yeah, officially, technically, I'm a launch player. I mean, I would say that's most fair. So yeah, I'm just a
Yeah.
launch player.
Hey, it's all good. We've all gotten to the launch at some point. Everyone knows that I'm a pre-alpha player, so I've been around forever as far as Spellbreak is concerned. But yeah, it's always nice to have these new perspectives come in from the launch who may not have known the history of how Spellbreak has been developed here and there. I know you probably have a little bit of bewilderment whenever people talk about the pre-alpha and like how it was this and how it was that and all that sort of thing. But it's good to have a fresh set of eyes who doesn't have that sort of I'm gonna call it baggage there in their memory. So
Yeah,
yeah, there's
yeah.
like this.
I think
Yeah.
it's a good perspective though, because there's a lot of talk about like, oh well, back in the day it was this that, and like I kind of I do this thing where it's a little aggressive, but I don't mean it to be.
Hmm.
I kind of just say like I actually don't care about anything pre-launch, and the reason why is because for the vast majority of people that will probably ever touch Spellbreak, pre-launch means nothing, and it
Hmm.
was the testing period. So
Yeah.
I almost kind of wish that we were all a little bit more willing to drop some of that baggage and kind of like experience the game for what it is now, and you can still use that information to build good opinions about where things should go or how things should be changed. But for a lot of us, we can't, you know what I mean? We can't do that. So you kind of have to like work with us, I guess, in a little bit on these opinions and thoughts that we have, because it's just different. It's a very different perspective.
Yeah, definitely. It's like reading a textbook from what I like to use there. It's like it's only relevant for as long as you want to talk
Yeah,
about it, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, we're in the here and now. Spellbreak is feeling pretty good from a mechanical standpoint. Obviously, we want some more progression put in the game, and we'll get into that whole can of worms there. By the way, those of you who don't know, this is Billy behind Krashy. If you ever hear him screaming about Destiny in the background, that is our special second guest that wasn't planned, but we'll roll with it here. So always good to have him on. But anyway, let's get into some of this here. So we need to talk about some of the news that we're having come up for Spellbreak Chapter 1. Obviously, we had the big trailer drop from IGN, just kind of laying all that out there, and I might even pull it up on the middle screen if you want to talk about it in depth. But Yeah, let's talk about chapter 1. We got a lot of great stuff coming. I know from I always reference that Tacos, who I had last week. He has a wonderful feedback post where Jesse actually commented himself on some of the changes that are coming in. Of course, some beautiful recovery changes coming in. And along with some more changes, so like Tempest, Pyromancer's getting some, Frostborn's getting some, and then Lightning Stone. And I believe that there was one more. Oh, it was Ice. Actually, Frostborn across the board is just being touched. So
Yeah, I
let's
was
get
gonna
into.
say your memory is way better than mine. I would not have remembered all the things that he put in that post.
Hey, man, we do a podcast. You're like
Yeah, you
you know.
gotta be knowledged up, not nice and scrolled up, right?
Yeah, this is why I'm the color commentator. So anyway, we're going to be getting into some of that. So as far as the trailer was concerned, we saw. I can actually pull it up here while we're talking about it. I'll do that now. We had quite a bit of new mechanics being dropped in, or at least some adjustments. So one of the big things that I saw was that Conflagration has 6 fireballs coming out instead of 4. What were some of the changes that you saw from that trailer that you could see?
I mean, the biggest thing was like us kind of like labbing up whether or not we saw a lot of talent changes, and it doesn't really
Mm-hmm.
feel like we did. I think the conflag change, it's funny because I'm sure they don't mind that they showed that off, even though technically this is all like an internal build footage. This may not even hit
Yeah.
live. We don't know, but I would say that the fact that they use the footage, it's probably safe to assume that it will hit live. But
Mm-hmm.
that's it's an interesting change, and we'll have to see how it reads on paper. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'd say that's the really the biggest thing that you can even really see. I mean, obviously, they're like the map changes for Bogmore are crazy, like super cool. I'm excited to see if there's anything special about Bogmore, like if something is
Mm-hmm.
down there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks really really interesting. Looks super cool, and yeah, the conflag change is interesting. It's interesting. I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah. And as I'm going to go ahead and display here, you can see on your little screen here that there's 6 fireballs. If you can see my mouse, there's 6 fireballs there on the right-hand side of your screen. I'm actually going to pull up this little tool. It's called Epic Pen. By the way, if any of you want to do some drawing on your screen, I'm obviously not paid to say this, but Epic Pen
Yeah,
definitely one of the. Yeah, it's one of the better ones that you can choose there. I actually, what I did is that Tacos has this program where he has an overlay to put a new crosshair on his screen. He runs it through Windows, just like a straight screen overlay. I actually like to just take Epic Pen and just put a little dot right there so I can see it a little bit better. So that's something I did just last time I streamed. But if you want to do it too, there's a little bit of game for you. But yeah. We have 6 fireballs coming out here, and I saw later on in the thing that they're doing 4 damage each whenever they collide with an opponent. So that's a little bit of a nerf to the smaller fireballs. They can do, I believe, anywhere from 5 to 10 damage currently, if there's a direct hit, and depending on like how close you are to the blast radius. But yeah, each individual fireball is being nerfed quite heavily, and then. There was another one that I saw. This is kind of a rehash. If you saw my breakdown on my own personal channel, right there, you can see the 8 damage.
Yeah.
With the rare blue, with the blue fire right here. It's actually the outer part, the very, very outer part of Combust. First of all, is smaller. And second, the maximum damage is 10. And you can replicate this in it right now, actually, if you run the same build he is.
See, look, this kind of like a breakdown is super impressive to me because I'm just not that particular about like diving in. I appreciate it, but I just don't think I would have even thought to do this to begin with. So this is interesting to like live into. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was definitely a deep dive. I didn't expect to talk about it for about 20 minutes, but that's what I ended up doing.
True, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we have nerfs to Combust, so there's your Pyromancer changes so far. I don't think Firefly is being changed. But I want to get some of your thoughts on Tempest and Frostborn. Like, what can they do to those classes to, to sort of change things up and really get... I know you have the opinion that Tempest is really weak right now, and I would agree that it's not in the best state that it could be. And then Frostborn, we can just throw that one out the window because it's not even really a class anymore. So... let's talk about that for a little bit.
Why do I sound like a robot? Do I sound like a robot?
You sound pretty good to me.
Oh, that's weird. Okay. Yeah, so it's my thoughts on Tempest. It's not that I think it's super weak. It's that I just think it needs like a little bit of help to push it into the realm of like being playable seriously. And I mean, we
Hmm.
see a few Tempest players out there. It's not like it's completely irrelevant. No class is
Yeah.
super really completely irrelevant. Even Frostborn, which is very, very low, lower than Tempest for sure, is still
Hmm.
being played. It's just that I think it needs some changes. Now, here's the crazy thing: I don't know what kind of changes it needs. I think that there's some good ideas out there. I mean, especially if you talk to someone like Tacos, of course.
Yeah.
But
It's
it
actually in
could
the
be
chat right now if you want to
yeah,
look
for
over.
sure. Um, Even from my perspective, because I think there's simple ways to change things, and then there are very complex ways of changing things. And more often than not, I have felt like developers will lean into the simple changes because it's cheap and inexpensive, and a lot of the time it's effective. Like it's not just oh it's cheap and inexpensive. It just doesn't take a lot of time. The actual turnover rate, like or the what's the word I'm looking for? Like how fast they can get it out is better, but I think something like even just bumping some of the numbers up for Tempest could be decent. Do I think that's the best solution? Probably not.
Hmm.
Um, Not sure. Like I said, that's why I'm just not sure. I don't even like to say what I would think like or what I think they should do because I'm just not the best person to ask. I do play a lot of Tempest, don't get me wrong. I just don't really know what would be best. I really don't know what I think the biggest weaknesses of Tempest are, other than the fact that I just feel like the class in general is a very vulnerable class. It could benefit from
Hmm.
more mobility. It could benefit from a little bit more durability. Maybe it's just hard to say.
Yeah, I would be in favor if they change the spell reduction a little bit in the air, like maybe if they put another 10%. By the way, those of you that are saying he sounded like a robot but is back to normal now, that's because I actually had two different audio sources up. So that's why it kind of sounded double there.
double
I've
the,
muted it,
double the
which is
credit.
why it sounds fine now. So that was completely
Yeah,
on me. So,
even something like what is this squall damage reduction 10%?
it is,
I
yeah,
think
it's
it's
10%. Yeah, it's flat 10%.
I mean, how crazy would it be just to buff their damage reduction while they're in the air a little bit? Because they're also the only class that's in the air that's constantly vulnerable while
Yeah.
being utilizing their kit. You know what I mean? Like, so it's
Hmm.
something like that I've even thought. Like, I don't even know if they need profound changes. I think that it could just need like some slight number buffs. Like maybe in like you said, the I hate that. I don't this is how bad I am with Tempest. I don't even remember the
Oh,
level 4 class skill. But like
yeah. Secondary strikes.
yeah, so secondary. Well, wait, that's lightning, isn't it? Conduit.
Oh, wait, we're talking about Tempest. Sudden gusts. Sudden gusts.
So okay, so sudden gust, like that could be improved and have a better
Hmm.
percentage to it, but you could also have a higher percentage for the damage reduction, like, and that could be beneficial to them. Or
Hmm.
maybe you could do something like because I think me and Tacos actually talked about this privately. I think one time we were just spitballing.
Yep.
Like you could actually build in like spellcast speed to the class. He didn't agree with me. It was an idea I had. I'm not saying he was saying this, but like I thought like maybe what if
Hmm.
they had some built-in spellcast speed so that way like you don't necessarily need fervor on the class, but at the same time if you run fervor then it stacks a little bit. So
Yeah.
I've had all kinds of ideas. Maybe when they're in the air they get more move speed so that way they're a little bit more horizontal in the air. Like there's all kinds of small changes that I think would really buff the class that
Hmm.
wouldn't be so profound or so crazy that it would break the class or require like a full rework.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as far as spellcast speed, I mean, you got to think that's got to be paired with a fervor. So, maybe,
Exactly. Yeah, and that would
yeah,
be
that would
nuts, right?
be,
That'd be
yeah,
awesome.
absolutely nuts. But you also have to imagine here that we're building off of the offhand gauntlet as well.
Yeah.
So if you like to compensate for the spellcast speed, for example, you would have to heavily nerf each individual shot of that particular gauntlet.
So I was
Uh,
also thinking that it was maybe like spellcast speed for wind shears only. You know what I mean? So that way it's like,
Maybe.
yeah, because don't get me wrong, if you get close to someone, you can absolutely shred them with fervor and wind shears, but it wouldn't like affect, like, say, a fire gauntlet or something. I don't. It's again, it's all conceptual. I don't really even know if that's what the class needs. This might be
Hmm.
completely irrelevant. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard. Like, in the
It would
balance discussion
be.
with like the people that are outspoken about it, I don't even feel super. Like I said, I don't even feel super comfortable giving ideas because I just don't even know what would be the best.
Yeah, yeah, I feel you there. One thing that they could do if you want to do the cast speed idea is just cap cast speed at like 30% or something. That way you
Yeah.
can just be like, nah, not gonna take fervor because it's not gonna matter. So I mean, that's
Or
one
you
thing
could
that they
just
could do.
overlap it a little bit to push yourself higher. Like, let's say, what if they built in, what is Fervor's 25, 20?
Yeah, up to 25. It starts at 15,
Okay.
builds to 25.
So let's say Fervor's 25 and you get a built-in 15 on Tempest for wind shears, but there's a cap of 30. So then you have to choose.
Mhm.
Do I basically want to take a 15 even though it's up to 25 and kind of lose some of the value in Fervor to buff my spellcast speed? Or do I
Mhm.
just want to say, you know what, I don't really need it. I've got the 15%. That could be an interesting decision to make as a Tempest player. Again, if I even think that's a good option, I don't really know, but
Yeah. So for those of you that may have noticed in Crash, I think you can see this too. We're going to jump topics a little bit. I have the Conduit Unleash the Elements thing here going into the prologue. So what I found very interesting is that some of these videos, like, they don't have all the skills or all the abilities of the class displayed. Like
they showed like
Frost, yeah, Frostborn didn't have Tundra, or maybe it did have Tundra, but it didn't have Ice Prism. So this is leading to a lot of theories from a lot of people. I think it was Tacos that pointed this out, that maybe that's one of the changes they're going for here in the future for Chapter 1. Maybe it's not going to be displayed because these are relatively recent videos that people might go back to and look at.
yeah,
And Ice Prism might not be a thing.
I actually kind of reverse engineered that on Twitter and said, hey, because these things are in the video, these probably won't get changed. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's probably safe to say that these kinds of abilities that we're seeing won't get
Hmm.
changed. But at the same time, and I don't know who their voice actress is, or like how in-house or how available she is to do
Avira
stuff.
Imbedane. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you actually listen to what she says, she's actually kind of vague. So she says
Hmm.
like what it does, but she doesn't like give values. You know what I mean? So they could even still nerf these as long as it didn't fundamentally change what it did. So like
Yeah.
her, the way she explains potential energy, you could still nerf potential energy, and this video would still be relevant because it's like, oh, damage
Hmm.
ramps up as you fire. It's like that's still true even if it's nerfed.
Yeah. Let me see if she says anything about it here actually. Oh, y'all can't hear it. Crashy, don't speak or you'll sound like a robot, okay?
Directly from the heavens, electrocuting all who are caught in its storm. Battle mages who choose this path will develop the skills Potential Energy and Secondary Strike. The former increases their power as they continue to cast spells, and the latter pours down an insurmountable surge of lightning bolts.
Okay. That's what I thought she said. So it sounds like potential energy is going to stay the same, or at least relatively the same.
Well,
And
isn't it? You have to remind me because I couldn't hear it. What does she say? Like, how does she word it?
oh, you can't hear it. My bad.
No, no,
So
no. Yeah,
base.
I'm just curious.
So she says in potential energy that your damage ramps up as you fire, pretty much, like exactly what potential energy is. And then
But that could still be relevant, even if they nerfed it to where you miss, right? Like
well, yeah,
like
yeah, that's kind of what we're saying.
yeah, that's why I'm saying like it's a little vague. And also, like if you look at the footage, secondary strike is striking 5 times, but they could still nerf that, and the video wouldn't be super outdated just because it had
Yeah.
5 strikes in it. Like, so I think that there's room for these things to change, but I also
Hmm.
think that that means there's room for the things that aren't being featured to change as well, which is interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Now, interesting to note, they don't mention overload and they don't mention power surge, which overload, you might as well be running runic fluency just off the get-go, which I think that they see is going to be a bit of a problem given I feel like that they see these things that they want to make sure that each individual part of Spellbreak is giving something unique to the table. So like having runic fluency and also having overload, they give the same thing. They give a rune charge. I feel like they're starting to shift away from that just a little bit because
So
that happened with Ice Prism too, because the damage mod wasn't even mentioned on Frostborn, and Focus Mana and Recklessness are a thing. So that might be a route that they're going.
it's safe to say that you expect those to be changed.
Yeah, I would say I expect them to be changed. I mean, Power Surge more than Overload, but yeah, if they're going to change
So
something, I would think
I don't
so.
know. Maybe I'm just being super conservative, but I don't expect that many changes. Like Frostborn, I really don't know what they're gonna do with it. I've thought of ideas and like what they should
Hmm.
do or could do, but I don't know. But to see full
Hmm.
class skill reworks or even just like bigger changes would be
Hmm.
interesting.
I'll
I'll put it
you,
this way. I would personally be very shocked if Overload is changed on chapter 1.
I would
I
be
would be shocked.
I would be surprised too, but this is where my pre-alpha knowledge comes into play here, because maybe it's just because it was alpha and beta stages of the game, but they are no stranger to just completely reworking the game. This is why you have people who are
That's
playing at
dangerous
launch.
when you have a launch product though, because
Yeah, that's why I'm
volatile.
towards like maybe they won't do it, but you have to keep in mind Proletariat and Spellbreak, they're no stranger to completely overhauling entire aspects of the game. Like, this is why you have people that play at launch say, "Oh man, it's like a whole different game." Like, you could make a completely separate game from pre-alpha, and it would just be nothing like Spellbreak, or like at least it wouldn't flow the same. Because back in the day, you had 2 classes that you could choose from. The looting was different. We had an entire different rune called Blink, which was like dash but a lot quicker, and you had 3 charges of it, and it was like pretty much instant. And then
I'd like to see Blink come back in a different iteration.
Oh, that's gonna get you something.
I'd like to see, like, I don't. Okay, so here's the thing: I can't recall cooldowns and how fast or this, that, and the other. I mean, I've seen it. Don't get me wrong, I've seen it. I'd like to see maybe a 2-charge Blink.
A 2-charge Blink.
I mean, something nerfed that's not crazy, but also isn't too like. Or even like what Taco said, 1 charge, 1 second cooldown. I'd like to see it. I'll put it this way: there's room. You know what I mean? There's room. There's room to try stuff like that. We'll see.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Now, one thing I want to see real quick is I know that we have all these other different videos of Spellbreak. I want to see actually if they mention all 4 of them on any of these videos, because I actually haven't watched all of them.
If they do, that's really telling, I would say.
Yeah. So there's Vanishing Mist. Here's Viscosity.
It doesn't look like there's time for it.
Yeah, there's no Outbreak and there's no Spreading Sickness.
That's an interesting decision. I'm thinking it's probably just a thematical design choice that they made for these videos to kind of showcase some of it without having it to be like a class breakdown video.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's an interesting decision they made. Definitely leaves room for speculation, which we love.
Absolutely. I love it so much. I was actually I wasn't thinking about making a video about that, but hey, ideas. Krashy, I would love to collab someday. I'm just saying.
I'm literally writing my script as we speak.
Do it. If you ever hear any click clacks, it's not Billy, it's Krashy on the grind. But anyway, man. So as you can see on your screen, chat, you can't see this yet, but you will in a second. We got a little bit of a culture problem going on with the Spellbreak subreddit. So, all right, let's get this out of the way right now. All right. Let's just go ahead and clear the air here. Spellbreak is obviously not in the most populated state that it's ever been in. Is the game dead? No, it's not.
Was that a question or a statement?
No, that was more of a statement, but I'm getting to the question.
Okay.
So the reason why I say it's not dead is because we know that we have 2 entirely huge updates coming in that are going to be bringing in a ton of people. We have Steam on the way. We have Chapter 1 on the way, which if you haven't saved your 1,000 gold, make sure you grind and save your 1,000 gold for Chapter 1 so you don't have to spend money. But if you want to, I mean, it's up to you.
Can I just hot take all over this section really quick?
This is what this is for. Go for it.
It's not even hot take. It's just me saying what I'm always saying, but maybe even elaborating a little bit more because I'm not typing in text on Twitter and Reddit. So
by all means,
this is my position. When people say the game is dead, the furthest I'm willing to lean into that, like to even humor that, is to say that some of the lobbies, some of the regions, some of the platforms are dead. And that is probably the furthest you've heard me say something like that. Like, I never say the game is dead. But if you want to be literal, then yeah, some lobbies and some platforms are kind of dead. And that's okay. That's the problem. The problem is not being able to discern and to identify when it is and isn't okay. Now, here's the thing. I've literally been a part of games that have died. And if you haven't gone through that very long, slow process, then that's why we have a very different opinion about what dead and isn't dead. So for me, dead, okay, as long as and I always say this, I've probably said this in at least 5 or 6 of my videos, as long as they can financially sustain their development, the game is alive and the game has hope. Whether or not you believe it or whether or not you have faith in the developers and what they're doing, it doesn't actually matter. The game is still there. The servers are still up. The employees are still working. They're still being paid. They're still on payroll. They still have future updates planned. We saw Jesse tweet about they're working on content for season 2 or chapter 2. Like,
Yeah, they're like 4
it
updates
is
deep.
it is so ridiculous to call the game dead. And that's why I get so angry about it. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. The only thing you're doing when you say that the game is dead is you're pulling down your pants and you're showing your ass. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
you're being so emotional and frustrated. And I get it. Don't get me wrong, I get it. But you got to come from a different angle. That's all. Like that's all it is. That's
Yeah.
really what the issue with the Reddit and the emotional post and the rage and the flame is. And that's really all it is.
Yeah, I like to. I just thought of this comparison here, but I'm gonna compare it to just having a newborn baby. All right, so everyone's excited, and everyone's you know, they're ready to see the new kid. You know, this just been born. Everyone's ready to go see it. So they see it. They throw a little party. They have all these things, and then the kid starts growing. So they kind of go their separate ways, and no one's really paying attention to it. But as he grows, he's going to start doing his first walking steps, and we're going to have another update kind of that's going to be kind of accentuating that. And then as he gets older and older, he's going to be maturing a little bit. Nowhere close to dying. He's just going to slowly be growing. I feel like that's how Spellbreak is going to. Maybe that's a weird comparison, but I feel like that's kind of where we're at.
I feel like that's decent. What I want to do is I'd like to draw like a comparison to just like progression and growth in life in general. Like anything worth doing is usually not easy, and anything worth like achieving usually takes time. And
Yeah.
so we live in this instant gratification era, right? Like it's this
Yes. Thank you for saying it.
fast, quick. You want it right now, and that's not the reality all the time. Like it's just not. So, do we
Yeah.
have games that do come out by massive, huge developers with huge publishers and tons of money that are instantly successful? Yeah, sometimes, but that doesn't have to always be the case, and that's okay. And what Seth said is like, hey, if you need to take a break, come back. We'll still be here. Like that's so
Yeah.
important. It sounds condescending, but it's not. It's literal. It's very
Yeah.
realistic.
That sound
Say, hey,
that
if you're not having fun,
actually. Yeah.
just come back later. Well, you're going to be here. Like it's a very grounded, mature thing for him to say.
Yeah, it exudes confidence. I wouldn't even call it arrogant. It sounds confident.
He's confident that they have time, money, and the talent to get it done. And I think that's it. I can't say if they do, you know what I mean? But I have faith in them because I see what they're doing. Like I'm watching what literally is happening. So
Yeah.
it's slow right now, and I completely agree. Like I said in my video today, I haven't even played the game in like almost 48 hours, but it's not because I don't love the game. I'm just kind of doing other things right now, and I'm waiting for chapter 1. So
Yeah, and I feel like that kind of ties in because I covered a Washington Post article not too terribly long ago, a few weeks ago, where they actually had an interview with Seth, who he was talking about how chapter 1's coming up and we're going to get all this stuff done, and he mentioned that we're not really where we want to be yet. We're a few updates away, which includes like being past chapter 1 if you read into it. So I feel like what he's saying in that particular statement where he's saying, go play another game, we'll still be here and we'll be happy to have you back at a later date. I feel like he realizes that the game's not exactly where they want it just yet. And maybe he's confident that like whenever, like Jesse was mentioning, they're planning 4 updates ahead. Maybe it's at that 4th update or the 3rd update where they're really going to be saying, hey, this is the game that we wanted to develop all along. Release obviously was a little bit early, but now we're at the point where we can really start saying this is the game that we wanted to make, and this is what's going to hold players' attention. And I hope with that includes a lot of progression, a lot of reasons to keep playing the game. They obviously from launch, just from like the very first launch, got 5 million accounts made. Everything's good, but there's nothing to keep people playing, so they're just leaving like right after I would say the first week. So I feel like it's going to be a little bit before we get to our ideal spot. Hopefully they'll have some kind of progression planned out in the short term to kind of compensate for that.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're heading towards. And here's the crazy part, because this sucks to say, but it could very well be the situation. We may get to chapter 1 and a lot of these issues aren't fixed yet, and that's still okay. And that's still okay. Again, I'm always going to bottom line it, and the bottom line is this: unless Proletariat as a company is hemorrhaging money and they're approaching layoffs because they can't afford to make payroll, we're fine. And that's the fact. Like, it's not something that we as the consumers, as the players, usually have to think about or even conceptualize, but that's just a fact. Unless they're at risk of not being able to pay their workers and they have to let people go, the game should be fine.
Yeah.
It just takes time. Like, we're so disconnected from the actual development process and a lot of the times when an update springs up and it's all good, we're like, oh my God, they did it. And when an update comes up or when a long period of time goes by where that doesn't happen, you're almost like, well, what the hell are they doing? You know what I mean? Like, they're not doing anything, but that's also not true either. You know what I mean? We just live in a very black and white kind of perspective as consumers, and we don't think about the gray area, the time that needs to be spent, you know what I mean, like the hiring that they're doing. Like, you don't think about the business side so much. You think about the game and is it good, is it bad? Like, it's just more than that.
Yeah, very, very much so. And I feel like all these people that say the game's dead obviously don't know the history of RuneScape, if you know how that thing unfolded there. So basically, everyone, if you ever played RuneScape back in the day, like 2007 is the time period that people like to talk about. Obviously, it changed a lot if you play RuneScape 3, because going into 2013 or 2014, they implemented this entire giant update that changed up the combat system, changed up the look, and now it's like a completely different game than what old school RuneScape is now. And really, I mean, it was back in 2000, well, it might have been 2014, 2013, where they put old school RuneScape back in, and that drew a ton more players. And now that game has a lot more going for than what many would call the main game. So there's like, crazy. There's plenty of opportunity. Like, even if a game is quote unquote dying, and maybe RuneScape 3 still is dying, I mean, there's still a lot of room to be had with future updates and stuff that could fundamentally change the game, that could bring a whole lot of players back. And right now, I mean, old school RuneScape's thriving right now. It's probably the highest player count they've ever had. So, like, people need to get, like you were saying, out this mindset that it has to be instant. It has to be instant gratification, or this game is just blown out of the water. And sometimes that is the case, but a lot of times it's, you know, there's going to be a steady community surrounding this game. And as long as it's enough to keep the lights on, then it's going to continue to grow. And I believe Rainbow Six Siege is another prime example of this too.
They are a phenomenal example of how, you know, it's funny. I played the game when it came out, and it was cool, but it didn't feel special. It was just a game. Yeah, I'm with you there. I almost never went back to it. Here's the thing. Literally, I almost never went back to it. I don't play that game. I pretty much never went back to it. And that's okay, because they don't need me. They just need people. There are so many people that play that game, and the esport, as an esport, boomed. It blew up. And I have a friend who was casting in Gears of War days, and he's one of their main analysts for the game now. Like, he goes to the big LAN events and is on the desk. Like, that game went 0 to 100, and I have for me, because I was disconnected from the game, I don't even know what they changed to make it much better, but they changed something and people love it. And that's a great example. And I mean, obviously they're a bigger company and a bigger developer, but that's to show the point, right? It's to draw the parallel. And that's crazy. I mean, it's crazy what they were able to accomplish with a game that was, what I guarantee that if we look in the past, there's a period of time where people are like, Rainbow Six Siege is dying, it's dead. You know what I mean? It's
I'm actually looking up on Google Trends right now, just like how that thing unfolded. Like,
I'm curious to see where the graph peaks are at if you look all time.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and show this here while I'm at it for those of you watching the stream, because this is actually one of the things I like to see. So this is past 12 months, but let's back it up to past 5 years, just to kind of see. Maybe we go even further. When was it released? Do we know?
I don't think it's 5 years old. Yeah.
It's it's like a couple years. Okay, so this. I don't know when it was released, but this is probably peak of release right here.
Yeah, that's probably peak of release, and then the game basically killed over, and then went back up, and maybe now there's not a lot going on because there's maybe not like lands events and stuff. I'm not going to try to speculate why it's at its current search point. And this graph is 100% accurate, right? Like, it's searching and it's Google Trends. But just the fact that it fell down so far and spiked back up is enough to show that, like, this is what games do. Like March 2018, this is 3 years, not even that, actually. It's like
2.25 years after it released, it came back up to 96% of what it used to be as far as Google Trends is concerned. And then like right at March, it was 60% of the way there. So it's still very, very, very healthy. And then COVID happened. So maybe the lane of it's dropped off, and that's where we're at here.
I think it's always important for people to remember that like games to be successful don't have to be as successful as other games, and for games to be successful, they don't even have to beat their own success. You know what I mean? Like, if a game boomed up to X percentage, they don't even have to get back to that point to still have a thriving future. Like, look at games like World of Warcraft, for example. Like, I don't think World of Warcraft will ever hit whatever peak it got to. I mean, it will always spike with new expansions and always do crazy stuff, but I don't even think you have to worry about it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. So
all I know is that we definitely will see spikes with Spellbreak. They may not be as crazy, and the numbers are definitely not as big as some other games, but it's just to paint the parallel that like these types of things happen. And I just think the rhetoric behind the game is for sure like the people that call the game dead feel so certain, and I'm just like the irony is that like who knows, maybe in a year from now those people will message me and be like, see, I told you, because the game does die. I don't know, but even if it did, at least I wrote it out and was like, you know what I mean, like hopeful and had positive vibes and was like looking for the good in things and like excited about what they're doing, because what they're doing is still meaningful. And I don't know, it's just a matter of perspective and where you choose to fall, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. So to give y'all a perspective, those of you that are watching, this is a peak of release here. This is 100% of how interested people were in it. We're at 3% right now as far as Google is concerned, which might indicate a player-based thing. It might just indicate just general interest from people searching Google.
And the same thing, because I've showed this off on my stream as well. It's like my views on my channel looks like that. That's exactly what it looks like. It may be not so abrupt, but
I could show you mine if you want. This is exactly how it looks.
And here's the crazy thing. So when people say like, oh, you just love everything that they do, it's like, no, I'm still, you're never worried. You're always just like super happy about it. It's like, that's not even true. Like I worry about it plenty.
Not at all.
I worry about it plenty, but the difference is that I'm just like, I'm just here for the ride. Like it almost doesn't matter what happens. If the game dies, guess what? I just go play something else. Like for me, it doesn't really matter.
Like you're playing a lot of Shadowlands right now, for example. You're following Seth's advice.
2 days in full, like it's crazy. So I just think like if you it's simple, man. Like if you enjoy it, you play it and you talk about it and you make content for it and you do those things. And if you don't, then you walk away. The problem for me, and this is to target the Reddit thing specifically, the problem for me is the half-assers, the people that love the game but will trash it any second they get, or the people that I played since alpha but will post on every single thread calling the game dead. Like you can't have it both ways.
Dude.
You can't, and I reject it. You know what I mean? Like I condemn that. I condemn being fake like that.
To give you some context here, the people saying that they've played since pre-alpha and are now calling the game dead, like back in those days, you were lucky to have 6 people in an entire solo match. Like, and I'm not exaggerating, like literally 6. That was the bare minimum of the timer to start, and it was like a 1.5-minute long timer. And the game, obviously, the game was as good then as it is now. So it was definitely worth playing at that time. And of course, you're up against, it's kind of like today a little bit, except today's a little bit more diluted. You're up against the very, very best of the best, the people who don't have anything else to do but play this game and get better and all this sort of stuff. So it was a much harder time than it was today, and they're still calling the game dead.
And I just want to touch on one more thing that is tied to the Reddit. It's not necessarily that I even disagree, at least not entirely, but I really get this one doesn't make me angry, but this one really peeves me, is when people say like all the sweaty players are ruining the game. No. It's like, dude, that is so ridiculous. Do you want us to quit? Like, what do you want? Do you want me to take a week off? Like take a vacation?
No, for real. Like I've seen this.
Silly. It's
yeah, I'm just going to keep this up here for context. There you go.
Sad Reddit.
Yeah. So anyway, this will predicate every single discussion that we have from now on, Krashy. We got another 20 minutes, so let's just keep this lovely image in mind. It's on my whole entire monitor, and it's creepy as hell, but I'm going to keep it up. So anyway, dude. Yeah, what you're saying is like... sorry, I got a little sidetracked there. Basically, like... the sweats aren't ruining the game. Let's get that straight right now. First of all, like as far as like the sweats that I know, they're kind of in the same boat we all are in. Like they're playing other games at the same time. Like I know I even saw Marcus, like the 2-year veteran who's been grinding Spellbreak since the day it came out. Like he's playing Warzone right now, I think, or he was playing Cold War.
Apex earlier and stuff too. Yeah, so he's just playing. Like I mean, and there's
Yeah,
nothing
like
wrong.
it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I guess if I had to TLDR the Reddit version, it's like, hey, look, the game's not dead. The game's in a pretty poor spot, but there's plenty of hope. They're still developing the game. And if you're a fan, be a fan. And if you're not, then leave. Like and that's okay. And come back at any time. You know what I mean? Like because I'm not gatekeeping. I don't want to close the door. Just
No,
take a
definitely
break,
not.
come back at any time. Just be grounded in reality and be in touch with your emotions. Understand yourself. Be self-aware about how you feel. Like it doesn't have to be the end of the world. It's okay.
Yeah, and these are the same people that are going to come back whenever the game's thriving and be like, "Yeah, I always knew it'd be great."
Exactly.
And I'm going to be like, "Yes, we did. I will welcome you back." So anyway,
exactly. Yep.
So our next topic of discussion, we were talking about how obviously the game's not dead, but it does have a player retention problem. So let's get into some theory crafting, what we would like to see as far as like progression is concerned. I think that's the number one issue that this game has. And I think, I think everyone and their mother knows it by now, like devs included. So
yeah. I'll blaze through this one. I think that some of the key things that we saw was Jesse saying that and I quote it because it's important. The ship has sailed on how prologue went way too fast. They know that, and that means that a lot of that downtime that we've been feeling even now wasn't actually meant to exist. They didn't know it was going to go so fast, so that should automatically be fixed, right? So now chapter 1, not only will it literally last longer because it's like double the duration of prologue, but it should feel like it's lasting longer, which will give us more of a sense of progression. It will give us a reason to fill into these games as opposed to like, hey, I completed that thing, now I'm just here. So that should automatically be fixed in terms of progression. I do want to jump the gun or like jump ahead and say like, I don't think a ranked mode would be good. I don't think it's coming anyways, but I definitely
a little bit early.
I see that opinion a lot, and I just want to like throw out my perspective on it. I don't think that's good right now. I do think some good matchmaking, like some slight matchmaking changes for the Steam release will be pretty solid. So I'm hoping we see a little bit of that. But really progression for me is just like, what am I getting? Like, where does the value of playing the game come from? And now that unlocks are going to be a little bit gated behind a little bit more time, that value goes up. So that's good. Something I would like, I would like to see leaderboards. I don't have a perfect solution for it because I know that y'all have some experience with that, and I don't know what the pros and cons of it were, but I'd love to see basically when new games come out and when people are exploring new games before big competitive scenes break out and stuff like that, there are always the stat grinders. The stat grinders are so important to the beginning of a game, and we have a very minimal version of that. Like we have the mastery tab, you can kind of stat grind your KD, but I'd love to see the stat grindy grassroots part of the grind come to fruition a bit more.
Yeah, I actually back in the day, so PUBG, obviously, the first Battle Royale, or the first big one that really came into fruition here, I actually really liked their leaderboard system. Obviously, it was exploited due to cheating and all that sort of stuff, but like you could kind of cull through that if you saw someone had like a 70% headshot accuracy thing. But I think it did a really good job of separating like the two categories you want to separate. So it had like a win rating and a kill rating, and everyone who was worth their salt went to that kill rating and saw how they were doing. But it did a really good job of like taking like a weighted, I don't want to say a weighted average because I don't know exactly how they did it, but basically it made it to where even if you're a veteran and you're constantly grinding the game, it's not taking just your flat number of exiles into account. It's taking in like how many are you getting per game, like what kind of streak are you on, like have you been doing well in your past 5 games or something like that. So it would really open the door to a lot of new people as long as you're willing to grind out and get get your foot in the door and really try to get a big string of exiles going on. So I feel like the leaderboard system that we had in pre-alpha and I think it was in alpha too, where it was basically just a weekly leaderboard and it was all based on, I believe, wins. And basically pretty much whoever had enough time to grind out that week made it to the top of the leaderboard and then put it in the stream until God knows when. So
I think that
Um,
it gives a chase. I think that it gives a sense of progression. I think that you could do it for like you know how there's like leaderboard filtering, so it's got like kills and blah 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 blah, and
yeah,
you
that's
can.
kind of how. Yeah.
I think if you had that, you would have different subgroups of people grinding different progression for the leaderboard. You would have clash grinders that are grinding to have the most kills within a week. You know, you would have
Hmm.
win grinders that are grinding whatever game mode to have the most wins or the most BR wins. Or like, I think that it's really hard for me to see what the downside of adding a leaderboard is. And even if you identify the downside, I think that the upside might just outweigh it. So I would love to
Yeah, maybe
see
so.
leaderboards hit the game personally. I think that would be really good. But at the same time, I don't want it to be a gated leaderboard where it's like only the top 100 people because then that's kind of pointless because then the leaderboard
Yeah.
only helps
Well,
100 people. So it needs to be at least inclusive enough where you can find
mhm.
yourself and kind of weigh it against others. So
Yeah, so what it would do is it would let you see the top 100, obviously. It had a little scroll wheel, but it wouldn't go below that. And you would be able to see the top 100 and you'd be able to see your own rank. And it would have like a little window where it's like, oh, here's 3 above and here's 3 below and how they're doing.
I
Or
would
something
love
along
to,
those lines.
I would love for it to be fully open, but I don't
Hmm.
know how hard that is, how much resources it takes, how big of a database has to be accessible live. So I'm not
Yeah.
going to. That's another one of those things where it's like when you don't really think about all the sides of development, you can say like, oh, they should just make
Hmm.
it that way. Well, it's like I don't really know if they can. You know what I mean? I don't really know how hard or how demanding that is. So personally, I
Hmm.
would love to see it be a very open and very full leaderboard experience. But if it's the top 100 and you get to weigh yourself against those people, that's still solid as long as it tells you where you are. Because like, let's say I'm
Yeah,
not in top
it did.
100. I don't want it to be like, oh, you're not in top 100, but here's where you are without telling you where you are, because that would be dumb.
Yeah,
So
it
as
would
long
give you a number. It would give you a rank number. It
I
was,
think we need that. What do you think? Like because for you, you're the other side of the coin in terms
yeah.
of like experience. Is did it feel bad? Do you think it would be good? Like
The only thing that felt bad about it was how it was done. So I'm not against a leaderboard. I think it's a great short-term solution. Honestly, I think it's progression without putting in progression. It's probably the
yeah,
most basic thing that they could do to make me want to grind day by day just to see my number go up. Because
yeah,
I mean, I've talked, yeah,
driven progression, not game driven or content driven, which is like that's a societal thing, right? Because we as a
yeah,
community,
it's bragging
we
rights.
yeah, we're progressing against each other, which is like, damn it, Death is the best toxicologist this week. Like Trago, you better get on your, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. That's exactly what it was.
And
Yeah.
that's cool. Like that's so
Yeah,
cool.
it really. Now the only thing is that they need to change it to where it's more of a weighted thing, kind of like how I was saying. Because the way that they did it, they would take flat wins, and it would only be a weekly leaderboard. So like you couldn't then look at.
That's shallow, right? Like it doesn't really show.
Yeah, so like if you weren't playing that week, then guess what? You're nowhere to be seen on this leaderboard. So I feel like they need to have something that's weighted a little bit, maybe a win rate, maybe maybe a like average number of exiles, so that we can have something other than just, oh, I have 73 wins because I played 200 matches. It's better than your 72 wins when you played 100. You know what I
Do
mean?
you think that it would be good to have parallel leaderboards, one that is like weekly and one that is all time, or do you think that's dangerous?
Oh, I don't mind. Like I would rather have just plain all time over weekly because
I think
I
both
feel
would be cool. Maybe.
yeah, weekly is just too short of a time frame and it refreshes too much because then you get into what we previously had where it's like
All-time monthly.
uh all time monthly would be, my whole thing is that like we need something other than weekly and we need it to be weighted differently. That's
Just
my
give
whole
it.
thing.
What? Let's even better. Why don't we just do a chapter leaderboard?
Could do that. That would be pretty cool.
It's longer. It serves close to all time, and it has like a start and stop date, which I think is cool, right? Like, oh, I was
Yeah.
chapter 1, rank 1 toxicologist. Like
Actually, I think that would be perfect because then it's basically
that's bragging
seasons.
rights to season, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm.
That would be really cool. It'd be really cool to see if they're implementing that right now, actually, or like for the next update.
Dear Jesse.
Please, I'm DMing Andy right after this. I'm like, can we get a leaderboard for chapter? No, they probably have already had it set in stone, but it would be cool to see, like, if they did. I can't, like, now that we mentioned it, I can't imagine them not doing it, like, because I know they have a progression problem, like, and like,
It's
this would be the perfect
community-driven.
time.
It's so good. It would be so good. Yeah, I don't know. If I'm honest, I don't expect it, but I really want it.
Yeah. These people in
That's
the
where
chat are calling you big brain Krashy right here. It's funny. Oh, by the way, to answer your question from earlier, Vithral, they did divide it up by class too. So it was like toxicologist rank 1,
That's
conduit
really
rank
cool.
1. Yeah.
That would be so good.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
like I said earlier, it can't just be wins. It can't just be exiles. You have to weight it some way.
I
Because
agree.
it was just the flat win number that drove everyone crazy. Everyone's like, "Oh, you're ranked number 1, but did you get it because you had 8 hours per day? Did you take a week off from work?" Like,
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
that's exactly how it was. So, like, obviously, you're still gonna get rank 1 if you take a week off from work, but like, it
I don't
actually
think you should be
weighs a
too
little bit.
annoyed if it's like a time thing, because that's kind of how like most rank systems work. Like if you're playing League and you're playing ranked, like yeah, obviously if you can fit more games in, then you have a higher percentage chance to do better.
Yeah.
Um,
And at the same time, you have these people that make Challenger at 100 games because they have an 80% win rate. So
Yeah.
like, I want the door to be open to that too.
yeah,
Basically.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah, I really enjoyed that part of the discussion. So let's
Same,
get
yeah, that's
into
awesome.
yeah. Let's take sad Reddit off because now I'm happy. Let's go ahead. Oh God, I zoomed it in.
Oh,
Get it out. Y'all can't see it on the stream, but it's just zoomed in so much. Oh, we're really sad Reddit. Oh man. So, in terms of the future of Spellbreak and what you the direction that you see this going in, because obviously you have a lot to say about Fortnite. We have experience with how Rainbow Six Siege talked about this. So in terms of like the casual side versus the competitive community and like what they're trying to do right now, I feel like they lean very heavily casual, but at the same time, they did just sponsor an Element tournament. So
I think that it is critical to captivate a casual audience, and then especially with this game specifically, we don't have anything official competitive. It's more so like them sponsoring Element to me is like them saying like, "Hey, look, we hear you, we see you. It will be,
here's some
but we don't know how
sprinkles.
yet." Yeah, exactly. It
Yeah.
will be a thing. If we can get the game there, then we can also get competitive there. But we don't really know how, we don't really know what mode, we don't really know when. Just like it's like faith, right? Like they're extending their hand and saying like, "Come with us." You know what I mean? Like take this leap of faith with us. And that's like what sponsoring Element feels like to me. Like, hey, look, we see you, we
Yeah, I
hear
agree
you,
with you.
we're here for it, but we're just not solidified yet.
Yeah.
As for like just future of the game in general, one thing that scares me, but I'm not personally like upset about it. It just scares me. Is it is very very clear to me that they have doubled and tripled down on battle royale. Like Spellbreak is a battle royale. It will be other things, but it is a battle royale. And then it's like an arena shooter. It's a battle royale and a control point game. You know what I mean? Like battle royale is sitting right up under the name. And again, to me, I think it's very clear that they've doubled and tripled down on that. So I think we also need to be comfortable with that. At least accept it.
Yeah, Tacos is smiling real big right now. I can just see him. He loves the battle royale. But
You know why? I say that I feel like it's obvious and I feel like they've doubled down on it.
it almost goes without saying, to be honest.
Look at any sponsored content they've done. Every single one has had the term battle royale in it. Almost.
Yeah.
Magic battle royale. Even the Spanish ones, or I think one of them was in Portuguese, maybe. I'm sorry if I misspeak. But like all of them, they have battle royale in the name. Look at the chapter 1 teaser. The portal, the rift thing, it's in battle royale. It's the game is a battle royale. Like it is, no matter how else you look at it. And again, I'm not upset about that. I love the battle royale. In fact, when my opinion of like battle royale versus Clash was happening, and I was kind of like I was playing Clash like way more. Now it's flipped back. I don't want to play Clash.
Battle royale.
I want to play battle royale more. I still like Clash. Don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. But I want to play battle royale. Battle royale is very very fun in this game.
Yeah, if I could just find some time on peak times, I wouldn't mind it either. I think just the way that the lobby queue times are just not very friendly for me personally.
It's definitely tough for now. So
yeah, but that is what it is. It's a player count issue, not necessarily a game issue. Although I would like it though if they shorten the time once you get max lobby, because I think some of the time kind of bleeds into how long they wait to close out the lobby sometimes. Like I would like it as soon as you hit that max number, start the timer. Don't even wait. Like just go for it.
And like it's that, and also, I mean, if I'm talking about battle royale, like
Mm.
and I'm debating on whether or not I want to put this one little bit of information in here.
Sure.
I
Do what you
I
want.
I think that they need to make iterations to battle royale that have already existed. So it's I'm leading into the rebooting your teammate thought. Like that needs to be in the game,
Feel like
not
it will be.
because I do too, I think, but I'm not saying it needs to be in the game because I just think it needs to be in the game because that's where the whole genre has evolved to. Like battle royale is it started off much slower. PUBG, H1. I mean, H1 was fast, but it was slower. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now we've evolved into a faster battle royale era.
Yeah, more
of
arcadey
gaming.
kind of.
Yeah, it is more arcadey, and that's you know why that's good is because the players that play battle royales have all basically agreed that it's good. Like it's
Yeah.
a market demand now, not a choice. You know what I mean? So reviving your teammates some way, somehow or the other, it needs to happen. This was the part that I was saying I didn't know if I wanted to bring in. Like I know when Andrew Flossie gets asked about it, his opinion is like, "Oh, I personally don't want it in the game," and I totally respect anybody's opinions, but at the same time, I
Get that out of here.
I don't like that opinion because I think that the players have identified just what they want, and what they want is more fun. And guess what? Think about it from both sides. If your teammate dies, it gives a cool opportunity for him to clutch or for your other teammate to clutch and get you back, which means that you're having more fun because you're back in the game, not just watching your friend, and it gives everybody else someone else to fight against. It's a win. Like there's no downside to this. The only downside is if you implement it badly. You know what I mean? Like so
you could easily tie it to Mana Vaults. Easy.
Dude, you can tie it to anything. Like I've heard
Mana Vaults
so
would be
many
easy.
ideas. What I think would be cool. Did you see? I mean, I hate to bring it up because Hyperscape is another.
No, I played the hell out of it for like a day. So tell me about it.
I like the way that they did rebooting, where you have to like pick a spot that somebody else died on. You know what I mean? And like you can kind of respawn there. So what I was saying is like, it would be cool if like when you kill an enemy, you gain a spirit, and then you take that spirit somewhere, and because you killed an enemy, that spirit
you literally pocket the orb or something.
Exactly. But you don't want to. I would like to see that iteration because that iteration is different than like the Fortnite way where it's like, oh, I pick up the card of my dead teammate. It's like you have to earn the dead card. You know what I mean? I have to kill someone so I can take their spirit, take it to a shrine or whatever, and then bring my teammate back. I think that idea is cool. I think tying it to Mana Vaults is an option. I think there's options, man. It's cool. But it needs to happen in my opinion. I think the respawning thing is necessary for battle royale squads or duos.
It really fits into the magic theme too. Like you're not really dead. You're just tied to a vital stone. And I can just take your essence or whatever.
So speaking of Vital Stone, I've even had the idea of like if they are really not wanting to put it in universally, make Vital Stone a talent where you can res your teammates. Like I mean, I could. I don't think that's. I wouldn't like that solution. Well, it would be broken because you would probably at least think about it.
For long term, it would be broken. Short term, it might weaken you.
I just think it would be bad design, but you could do it that way. Because what would end up happening is in squads, you would pretty much always have like at least one person that's running it, probably, unless it was just so bad that nobody runs it. So there's balance issues with that. I would rather just have it in the game across the board. I was just saying, technically, there's lore and there's things in place that make it make sense. So
I'm sorry, Vithral's cracking me up because he's like soul for a soul, like in Infinity War.
Soul for a soul.
Let's just get Red Skull in here. Just do it just like Fortnite and just sell out to Disney. And let's get Red Skull say a soul for a soul.
Well, Vithral's got the Hulk build, so I guess we're on par right now. We got the Marvel thing going on.
Yeah, we've come full circle, Marvel. So anyway, unfortunately that hour went by fast, so we do have to wrap up here. It's already 7 for me, and I think you're central too. So let's go ahead and get into our outro here. Krashy, it's been a pleasure having you on. Go ahead and shout out yourself here. Any videos that you have coming up, any events that you're personally planning. Let's get those socials out there too.
Yeah, so I definitely have events in the future that I'm already planning, but it's like conditional to a few things. So be on the lookout for that. Today, and that obviously this window is still open. The video that I posted today, if you're a subscriber on my channel or if you want to subscribe to the channel, you can put a comment in the comment section and I will be picking one person to win a $120 master pack that's redeemable on the Epic Games Store. or the Epic Games launcher. And so that's cool. So excited to give that away. And then just in general, like I'm either if you search Krashy, like if you just Google search me, you're gonna find me. There's really not that many other people that have ever used the name. So for YouTube, Krashy on Spellbreak. For Twitter, Krashy. Other social medias I don't really mess with that much. And then of course you'll see me popping off on Reddit. So I'm sure you'll be able to find me there.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Telling someone that they're dumb for saying that the game's dead. We've all been there, and it's always a good time. By the way, guys, if you don't have time to search it, there is a description to this live stream. You can just scroll on down and find all of his socials there too. It's a direct link to his channel and to his Twitter as well. And by the way, just to clear up something for his giveaway for Epic Games, you can be on any platform. It will apply to any platform, but you have to log in to Epic Games, put in the code, and then it's there for your entire Spellbreak account, just in case you guys were wondering.
And heck, if I have to, give me your account information. I'll plug it in for you. You know what I mean? I know that's weird, but if you win it and you're not on PC,
Yeah.
we'll get it to you. You know what I mean? We'll make sure you get it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Krashy, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thanks for joining me for this hour. Always good to have another voice here. Those of you that are interested in the current podcast for SpellCast, you can always follow SpellCast on Twitter. That's twitter.com/SpellCastSB. You can also subscribe to this channel and ring the bell, get you some nice notifications. We are a small community so far, but it will continue to grow as time goes on. It's only episode 3. And episode 4 is coming on next week. Also, I've been your host, OSK. You can follow me on Twitter as well as my personal YouTube. That's down in the description as well at the very bottom, because we always want to promote our guests there at the top. So, Krashy, thanks again for being up here. And it's been a great time. Lots of great talking points. And any last words for you, sir, before you're exiled from my podcast?
Exiled from the podcast. I mean, hey, look, we look to the future. We go forth. We love the game. We play the game, and we're looking forward to chapter 1. I speak for a lot of us when I say that. I think it's important to be that positive side, even if I get a little rowdy in doing it. But for any proletariat that watches, for any of the developers or any of the the people that in the community that watch, this is where we are. This is where we are, and the human race is an adaptive species, and this is no different. We know where we're at. We know what we want. We deliver our feedback. We have the discussion. That's important. We have the discussions, and we look to the future. And I'm excited about the future.
Absolutely. We will adapt as Spellbreak adapts. Guys, y'all have a great night. It's been a pleasure having y'all on, and I will see you guys next weekend. Y'all have a good night.